In 1986, a 2-year-old boy in a village in northern India started begging his parents to take him home, to a house he'd never been to, in a city he'd never visited, to a wife and children he'd never met. This is the case of Titu Singh, one of the most rigorously documented past life cases in academic history. Researchers from the University of Virginia spent years verifying his claims against a real, unsolved murder file from 1983. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Titu said, how much of it checked out, what his body had to do with it, and the one detail that even skeptics have struggled to explain away. Here's the skeleton of it. In August 1983, a shopkeeper named Suresh Verma was shot dead outside his home in Agra, India. He owned a radio, TV, and video shop called Suresh Radio. He left behind a widow, Uma, and 2 children. 4 months later, in December 1983, a baby boy was born in a village called Bod, about 8 miles away. His name was Titu Singh. By age 2, Titu was telling his family he wasn't really their son, that his real home was in Agra, that he had a wife named Uma, 2 children, and a radio shop. He had a birthmark on his head. And when researchers eventually compared it to Suresh Verma's autopsy report, it lined up almost exactly with the entry wound of the bullet that killed him. This case was filmed by the BBC. It was formally investigated by psychiatric researchers. And to this day, it's cited as one of the strongest documented cases of its kind anywhere in the world. So, how does a toddler in a farming village know the layout of a dead stranger's shop? Let's start with what actually happened to Suresh Verma, because underneath the paranormal headline, this is still a real, violent, unsolved feeling crime. According to accounts from his family, Suresh came home one evening in August 1983 and pulled up outside his house. He honked for someone to open the gate. No one came. Frustrated, he got out of the car to check. That's when 2 men appeared, armed. Within moments, Suresh Verma was shot in the head and killed right outside his own home, in front of the life he'd built. He was reportedly known locally not just as a shopkeeper, but as someone with a reputation. Some accounts describe him as having a temper and being involved in local disputes. Whatever the full context, the case was never fully resolved in a way the public record confirms. What we do know for certain, a man was murdered, and the killing left a wife and 2 young children behind. 4 months later, on the other side of that same district, Titu Singh was born. By the time Titu was 2.5, his parents noticed something was off. He wasn't just a child with an active imagination, he was insistent, specific, and distressed. He told his mother things like, "Tell my grandfather to look after my children and my wife. I am having my meals here, and I am worried about them." When she asked what he meant, he said plainly, "I am from Agra. This is not my home." He described a street, the color of a house, the layout of a radio shop he said belonged to him. He gave his wife's name, Uma. He named 2 children he said were his, a boy and a girl. And he had nightmares, recurring ones, of being shot in the head. His parents, understandably, didn't take it seriously at first. Children say strange things. But Titu didn't grow out of it. He became more insistent, more specific, and more distressed every time they tried to correct him. The turning point came in April 1987. Titu's father was heading to Agra without him, and Titu became distraught, desperate to go along. In that moment, he blurted out a detail his family hadn't heard before. "I have a shop of transistor radios. I am the owner of Suresh Radio." A name. A real, specific, checkable name. Titu's older brother and a friend decided to actually go look. They traveled to Agra and started asking around for a shop called Suresh Radio. They found it. Not a similar name. Not a coincidence. An actual radio, television, and video shop called Suresh Radio, run by a widow named Uma, whose husband had been shot to death 4 years earlier. They introduced themselves to Uma Verma and explained carefully that a small boy in a nearby village claimed to be her husband. Uma Verma decided to see for herself. She and members of Suresh's family traveled, unannounced, to Titu's village. According to multiple documented accounts, Titu spotted them before anyone introduced them. He was outside, at a water tap, when he saw the group approaching, and immediately shouted to his parents that his, quote, other family had arrived. He reportedly recognized Uma on sight. He asked about the children by name, and in a detail multiple researchers flagged as strange for a child his age and background. He asked Uma to sit close to him, a level of familiarity that stood out sharply against normal social behavior in that setting. Then he described something no outsider would have any reason to know. A specific family outing to a fair in a neighboring village, where Suresh had bought Uma sweets. Uma confirmed it happened, exactly as Titu described it. Here's where the case moves from interesting story to formally investigated by scientists. Titu had a distinct, indented birthmark on his head. When researchers obtained Suresh Verma's autopsy report, which documented a gunshot wound to the right temple with a corresponding exit wound on the opposite side, they compared it directly to Titu's birthmark. The location matched. This is the detail that drew the attention of Dr. Ian Stevenson, a University of Virginia psychiatrist who spent decades formally researching children's claimed past life memories, and Dr. Satwant Pasricha of India's National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. Together, their documentation of Titu's case is considered, within that specific field of research, one of the most thoroughly verified examples on record. The case was later filmed for BBC television in 1990, where cameras captured the autopsy comparison on air. Now, the responsible thing to do here is give you the other side, because it matters. Skeptics point to one significant fact. Although Titu's family didn't live in Agra, his father commuted near the area regularly and read local newspapers. A shooting death of a local shop owner in 1983 would very plausibly have been local news. Under this explanation, a young child could have absorbed fragments of an adult conversation or a newspaper story and, combined with a vivid imagination and a documented psychological phenomenon where children sometimes fixate intensely on invented identities, built an elaborate internalized narrative around it. This doesn't fully explain the birthmark correspondence, which is the detail that even skeptical researchers have found harder to wave away. But it's a real possibility, and it's why serious researchers didn't just accept the case at face value. They spent years testing it. You'll see some accounts online claiming Titu's information directly led to the conviction of Suresh Verma's killers. I want to be upfront. That specific claim isn't well supported by the primary academic documentation of this case, which focuses on the memory verification, not a courtroom outcome. Treat that part with real skepticism. What is well documented is this. Titu Singh grew up and, by adulthood, had become an academic himself, teaching yoga and naturopathy. He's spoken publicly about the case as an adult, including on podcasts, still describing the memories as real and vivid. Suresh Verma's actual murder, the human tragedy underneath all of this, remains, in the public record available to researchers, essentially unresolved in terms of formal justice. A man was shot outside his home in front of the life he built. Whatever explanation you land on for Titu's story, that part isn't in question. Here's what makes this case genuinely hard to dismiss, and genuinely hard to fully accept. It's not one strange detail. It's a stack of them. A specific name, a real address, a widow who confirmed private family memories, and a birthmark that lined up with a bullet wound down to the location. Maybe it's the most compelling documented case reincarnation research has ever produced. Or maybe it's proof of how easily a family's overheard conversations can become a child's unshakable reality. Either way, a man named Suresh Verma is still gone. And somewhere in that gap between explanation and mystery, his story found a way to keep being told. If you want more cases where true crime crosses into the genuinely unexplained, subscribe. I'm covering more of them soon. And let me know in the comments, believer or skeptic?